that's my grandpa and that's my grandma, and that was the last time I got to see him.
Do you remember what you said to him that night? Those few words.
I know I got a couple laughs in with him, and I really only got to tell him I love him.
If you ask any country music artist what they love about this genre, invariably they'll tell you it's the storytelling. In 2024, you'd be hard-pressed to find another country artist who tells their stories with as much vulnerability and raw honesty as 23-year-old Wyatt Flores.
Well, over 1 million followers across his socials are spreading the word about his music, why they've connected so deeply to it, and why you probably will too. His debut studio album, Welcome to the Plains, is out now. Welcome. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty dang good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Plains is out now. That's what I meant to say. I'm like, nah. So good to have you here.
Well, thank you.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
What a cool. So I wanted to touch on in the introduction the idea about storytelling, because for you it really is. And we've done a lot of interviews with a lot of country artists, and I don't want to put anybody under the bus or anything like that, but that's a real thing.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, hey, so what is it about country storytelling? And there was a kind of a long period of time, but because music goes in trends, a long period of time where the storytelling was about hanging out with your friends and having a beer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And like, that's great. There's tons of space for that too. But when it comes to you, you're like, no, this is what I'm feeling in my heart. This is what I want to share with everybody. And what I think is really unique about you, the empathy that you have in your approach, because you know that people share a story similar to maybe struggles that you've gone through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. It is about the storytelling. And there is plenty of room for beer drinking songs and things like that. But there came to a point where it was just all that, I think, in the country music scene, or at least on your mainstream stuff. And I'm very lucky that I get to be a part of mainstream and be able to share my stories, because I am wildly different than a lot that's coming through country. And I'm very blessed that I have a big fan base like this, because beforehand it wasn't like that. And to be vulnerable and to share my stories and to also have other people going through the same thing, it's just something that we all kind of share. And I feel like there's been plenty of artists that have done it before, of sharing their own stories, but this is like the first time period where this side of country is really getting a lot of attention and really honing back in on actual life experiences.
Yeah, we had a chance to kind of talk through everything that you've gone through, and there's so many questions we have about the ability to be vulnerable. It's not easy. I mean, you're young, you're 23, and you have the courage and the confidence to do that. Where does that come from?
I don't really know where it comes from. It's just, I kind of always noticed it when I was younger,
right.
Just kind of being different in my friend group, I guess. And that's nothing against my friend group, but yeah, it was always about the deeper talks in life and not just scratching the surface and having small talks. I can't stand, I guess, little...
You're like an old soul almost, right?
It's like I'd rather talk about something real, I guess. And so vulnerability takes time.
It does.
But I think that what's harder that I'm learning now, it's not being vulnerable with others, it's being vulnerable with yourself, which is kind of what happens in the songwriting process. But now more than ever, I'm working just on being vulnerable with myself, it feels like a harder task than just having to be vulnerable with someone else.
Is that making you a better songwriter, you think?
I can't say if it does or if it doesn't, I guess. Because there comes that point whenever you write down, you're writing your own feelings and you are being vulnerable with yourself, but there's more of a task at hand. So I guess in ways, it does. And I think it will help me grow, but yeah, that seems to be the toughest of them all, is really when you sit down with yourself and you start digging.
Yeah. It's almost like it's therapeutic when you write.
It is. And sometimes that therapy is not fun to go through.
But it's good too on the other side of it,
on
right?
the other side of it.
Yeah.
Because songs will have meanings in the time span when they're written, and then later on in life, like, they'll have different meanings for me now.
And they'll continue to have different meanings.
Oh, yeah.
As you go along.
Which is kind of a weird thing that I'm just now picking up on. I'm like, this certain song here kind of means this to me now.
All right, so we're going to go back to your first post. I don't know if you remember.
I don't. I have no idea.
Okay, so we got July 2, 2018 on Instagram. Riding my thumb in Mexico.
Oh,
Here we
shoot.
go.
Yeah, that was I'm trying to remember what town that is. But it's right next to a prison. I just I thought it'd be funny, you know.
Sometimes you just see a sign and you're like, I have to take a picture next to that sign.
And the caption is Johnny Rodriguez, which is also another Mexican artist in country, which is crazy because just last week I came into Nashville before we hit the second part of this tour. This girl comes up to me at the airport and she's like, "Are you Wyatt Flores?" And I was like, yeah. What's your name? You know, nice to meet you. And then she goes, "Do you know who Johnny Rodriguez is?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I used to cover his songs." And I was like, "Wait, why'd you ask that question?" She's like, "That's my dad." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." Anyway, fangirled so hard. I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. Are you serious? And she's like, "Oh, our family is huge fans of you." And I was like, "I've been playing that song since I was like 14. Anyway, that's a wild backstory to that post, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I think my sister was driving. I don't think I could drive yet. So I was like, "Hey, pull over. I want to take this photo." I
You made her stop and go, "Hey, let's take a photo at the time."
I think we were coming back from like grandma's house. I don't even know.
Do you remember your career at that time and what you were going through it was 2018?
There was not much of a career going on at that time.
What was going on with your music?
I guess I would have been 17, so I probably was driving. With music, I just like to play. So I bring it to school and on school trips or ag trips, I guess. But I just play for anyone that wanted to listen. And then really it was just, I had a whole bunch of friends. So we'd just sit around and jam. And there wasn't really a whole lot going on in my career then. It was just more for a hobby, I guess.
You know, in the 6 years can be a long time, and in the grand scheme of things, it can be like a blink of an eye.
Oh, yeah.
So along that course of time, when did you actually dial in and go, okay, you know what? This is going to work out for me. I can actually make something out of this.
That's a tough one. Because I was still kind of taking it serious when I was really starting. Like the first song I ever wrote was Traveling Kid, and I wrote that just because someone right before my first ever like actual getting paid bar gig was like, "You should have your own original music." And I was like, "I never thought about that." Went home, wrote Traveling Kid. That was the first song, and that's what got it all started. But I think the turning point when I knew I was going to go for it was when I was dropping out of school. Because I joined a band in the middle of COVID, and we were playing all these hole-in-the-wall bars, and then I was lying about my age every single weekend, and I was having way more fun doing that than doing actual schoolwork during COVID times. And so, yeah, by the end of that semester, I just remember coming home and being like, this is what I'm going to do. So I just went back to farming and ranching, and then I'd play shows, as many as I could, and then from that point on, things just started building, and word kind of got around that I was trying to really do it, and then I started putting out stuff, and next thing you know, I'm kind of moving to Nashville, kind of broke off my trying to find money, and then later on, about a year later from that, that's when the blow up happened, and then life just turned around, did a complete 180 on me, and I've just been holding on.
Yeah, it's fast, right?
Yeah, you know, you talked about school as well, dropping out.
Oh, yeah.
Was it a good experience for you? And you said you were different from your friends, and I feel like there's a story there that kind of made you want to go into music and push that boundary.
Yeah, like I was going to go into INC, which is instrumentation and control, but that takes so much time, and you really have to sit down and really learn the craft, and I just didn't have the time span for it. If I love something, I will fully invest into it, but if I don't, I'm not giving my time at all. And I moved to a college that none of my friends had ever gone to. I could have just stuck in Stillwater and gone for an ag degree, which is what my sister did, and that's what all my friends have done. Hell, my friends are in class right now. But I just didn't see that working out for me. And so basically, when that time period came, I was like, they'll take your money no matter how old you are.
Yeah.
Was it something that you knew from a really young age? I know a lot of people, and I felt this way too when I was like 8, 9, 10, had an itch to be like, this can't be it.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be it for me. Was that similar to what you experienced?
Yeah, kind of, because both my parents dropped out of OSU, which is in the same hometown as where I'm from. And so I always remember hearing stories from my dad when he was in high school. His original plan was to just be a drummer because that's what he had been doing. He'd been playing in bars since he was 12, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, he was always telling me that that's what he wanted to do. He tried out for like Reba McEntire's brother's band, and he was the youngest one to go in and do it. And he said no to the gig. He got the gig, and he said no because he had a scholarship to go play football at Panhandle State, and money wasn't a thing, you know. So he was like, well, do I get a full ride and try and get my education, or do I go live out on the road? And so in some ways I'm living his dream for him. And that's just kind of what made the decision for me, was like, I might as well go live this dream. You know, there's only one life, and why would I want to just sit there and one day go, well, I never went for it.
Right.
And I guess that's part of like my first project, Life Lessons, of really just trying to explain that to people. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get right into picking whatever you like.
All right.
Good luck. No, kidding.
Well, shoot. Let's see what we got. Well, my goodness, this would have been our last show that we did for the year at Saturn in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. And basically we never take like band photos like this with the crowd, and we were like, we might as well, you know, since it's our last show. And basically that night my band pulled 2 pranks on me during my song Wildcat, which is a song that I wrote about being the mascot when I was in high school. I guess they got to the venue before I did, because I was driving my own truck there, and they had these mascot helmets that were, one was a puma, one was a tiger, one was a panda helmet. They put them on during the song. My manager ran around, put them on their heads. I turn around, I get scared, like scared shitless, because I was like, Bill's just this massive, you know, he's the tallest one in the band, but you put that helmet on, and then he just gets even bigger. Scared the shit out of me. Sorry, I don't know if I'm good to cuss on here, but
go for it.
Good.
And then in another song, we were supposed to go into one of my older songs, Dead Man's Road. Like, there's a drop in that we do. They went into Higher by Creed, and they didn't tell me. And another artist,
no,
Drayton Farley, was there. He's also from Alabama. He just walks on stage. They had planned it out beforehand. Had no idea. I was like, I know I'm playing the right chords, and y'all are not.
Nice.
Yeah, they got me good that night.
That's how you know you got the right people around you.
right.
Oh, yeah. You can enjoy it. They can have fun, right?
They're like, he might get pissed for a little bit. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
How is it for you to be on stage? Like, is there an experience that you had that just kind of blew your mind? I know you were at the Grand Ole Opry as well, and like that must be spectacular for you.
Definitely moments that are like that are rewarding, where you kind of take a step back on that stage, like the Opry or the Ryman or Red Rocks,
Right.
And places like that really mean something to you. But just being with this band, it's a great experience every single night. They're my team, and they're my family on the road, and I'm lucky, because most people, when they have bands, they're just hired musicians, and you know, maybe the artist doesn't really care about them all that much, but these people have grown with me. They've left the other company, and they trusted, you know, a 22-year-old at the time, I guess, to follow, and I'm very blessed to have this crew. Yeah,
what they say it's like everything is better together, right? Like when you're getting up, if you have people that are along the ride with you, it just so much more. You get so much more. Yeah,
we've all had to grow.
Yeah,
I love that.
All right, man.
All right, well, let's go for another one. Oh shoot, this is actually a little pop-up show that we did with my guitar player, and that's my dad playing drums at my favorite bar down there on the Strip in my hometown called the Salty Bronc, and really it was just me and my dad haven't actually gotten to jam out in a really long time, just because I've been so busy on the road, and sometimes when I get home, the last thing I want to do is pick up a guitar, and I feel really bad, because that's all we ever used to do. We'd sit there in the shop, and so when I asked him to come just do this pop-up, it was right after my mental health break, and I was like, let's get back in the saddle, and he came out with us, and he was nervous, so nervous, because he hadn't played for me in 3 years, so he was freaking out the entire time.
Wow.
And I don't know, it's just an awesome experience. If it wasn't for my father, I would not be in the place that I am today, or who I am today.
What does he say about the life you're leading now?
I mean, he's just blown away by it all. I think both my family there for a while, it was kind of funny. I was like, I don't think they know how big this has gotten. Like, they know I'm out here doing this. And then finally we started like really trying to get them to come to more shows that aren't just in Oklahoma. And then that's when it started hitting them. I think it was it probably would have been Dallas of last year in December, where they got to come see me play for about 2,000 people, if not more. It might have been 2,500 people. I can't remember that venue cap, but when they seen that, they're like, oh, this is what's happening. And they're just, I'm so blessed to have them as my family. But also they were supportive. Like, he tried to scare me in the early days of college. He was like, yeah, you better finish school. You better not quit on me. And then as soon as I came home and I said, I'm going to do music, he was like, sounds good. And I'm sitting there like shivering. I'm like, this is not a fun conversation. He's like, sounds good to me. Right. And when I told my mom, I told her before, I was like, hey, Mom, I got to tell you something. I'm not going back to school. And she's like, oh, yeah, I figured this was. And I was like, wait a minute. There's no faith in this? Oh, it cracked me up a whole lot.
But it's like they knew.
They knew I wasn't cut out for school. They were surprised that I even went for that time period.
But like they knew that this path you're taking now is something that you probably wouldn't be able to shake. Yeah. The idea of doing it, right?
Yeah, I had to go try it, but no one ever expected this.
Yeah,
it's like, because we're all realistic, you know. Mm-hmm. I believe you should go chase down your dreams, but in order to do so, you're going to sacrifice a whole lot, and you never know what the results might be. So success could look way different. And the fact that we're even here, I'm just blessed. Like, my dreams have already come true. My goal was to have 5 people in the early days. My goal was 5 people to sing one of my songs back to me, and now I get to live that dream out over and over again every single night that we play. Yeah. So everything else has just been bonus. So I'm just blessed.
That's incredible.
You talked about your mental breakdown, and this was afterwards.
So this was my first show back, right before we finished out that leg of the Life Lessons tour. So it was a week at On-Site, which is basically a place where you do group therapy. And honestly, that was the best thing that I could have ever done, because in that place, I was pretty much the youngest one there. There was a whole bunch of 60 and 70-year-olds there, and I'm looking at them like, it's a good thing I'm here now, because what if I was them? Mm-hmm. And looking back on life and questioning why I wasn't happy all those years. Mm-hmm. And then after I got out of there, I went home for a week and just helped with calves and hanging around the farm and hanging around friends. And then I was like, let's go ahead and just do a pop-up show.
Your song on TikTok, Please Don't Go.
Yes.
Your TikTok completely pivoted. It went from a few views to thousands of views, and that song was so important to so many people, and it resonated with a lot of people. And there's a lot of stories behind that song. That song must have had a lot of impact on you, the way it was released and the way it affected people.
Yeah, it was. I knew it was a good song, but the meaning behind it, I didn't really tell a whole lot of people, and part of my band didn't even know what it meant. Until I finally started saying it. And I was like, no, this is actually the story behind this song, which was just me and this girl that I was in love with. And we were just going through a hard time together, and we had been in each other's lives for a really long time. And she wasn't doing good, and neither was I. And it was kind of the first time that I was so close to someone. Like, there's been so many suicides that I've known about, that I've had friends where, just next thing you know, they're gone. But never had someone so close to me. And I've always struggled mentally, but I've never been around or loved someone so close that was going through it as well. So I was scared shitless that they might do harm to themselves. So I wrote Please Don't Go in November of 2021. Yeah. And started recording it in December. And that was like the 10th song that I had ever wrote. Mm-hmm. When it came to the actual blow up and people finding out what it meant, that's where kind of Oh Susanna comes in, because when I went to On-Site, I learned what codependency was, and turns out I got a lot of people pleasing ways, so when it came to my fans, it felt like it was my responsibility to try and help them through their stuff, because they still tell me the things that are going on in their life. And honestly, I didn't realize that I was taking their pain with me. There were a lot of trauma dumping, meeting fans, and that's nothing against them. They just feel like they're comfortable enough to talk to me, and that's great. I'm glad that they feel like I'm a safe place to take their stuff, but I had to learn to not take it with me, because I lost my grandfather last year to suicide, and I didn't take time to process that either. Instead, I said, I'm just going to hit the road and keep going, and ran myself into the dirt, and I didn't know how to process things or take care of myself. So it just kind of fell apart piece by piece. And yeah, I'm glad that it happened, because if I would have never taken the time away from music to work on myself, I probably either would have ended up dead in a green room or never playing music again.
You know, there for decades, almost as long as country music and rock music has been around, there's been this romanticized story of the musician who just goes so hard and then goes away young, right? And that's, you can name
27 Club,
27 Club, right? Artists, musicians. And what I think is really, really important for your generation of listeners is hearing someone who is going through something that they might be dreaming of, right? That they might not even think they could ever grasp. But having them be told, like, listen, here's the reality of what this could mean. This is what it means for me. And it's important that we all are able to talk about this, because, I mean, even just the idea of talking about what you're going through for a lot of people, individuals, families, is a struggle. It's a taboo, right?
Yeah, it's a hard thing for anyone to actually share their feelings. That's why a lot of people listen to music, because they don't know how to find the words inside themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think for anyone to actually practice finally telling someone how they really feel, it's a healthy thing to do. You just got to trust yourself to do it.
How are you coping now?
Oh, coping now, way better. I mean, shoot. I've never been happier being out on the road and touring this hard. Like, this is the hardest I've ever toured. I can't even say that, because in the van days, we were running like we were in a bus. So we were all probably getting 4 hours average of sleep and then driving to the next thing. And it was just wash, rinse, and repeat. And nowadays we're in a bus where I'm lucky enough that my fans have gotten us to that place where we can have a bus and we can enjoy what the road is. And you know, it's still hard. There's still hard times. I can't say that I'm perfectly fine, but like, hell, in September, in the early parts of September, I was struggling going home, because it messes with my identity of being one thing out here on the road, being the artist, and then coming back home and letting that be what it is and coming back to myself. And I struggled with that, and I honestly had a way worse mental hardship right then and there, and, you know, trying not to let myself go. And, you know, because a lot of people, they have this voice that lives inside of them, and once that voice starts talking, it's a tricky thing to get yourself out of that hole. But luckily, through going to on-site and being around a lot of good folks, you know, it was a hard thing to crawl out of, but I was able to get through it and still play these shows and still do what I want to and still love it. But the anxiety part, this year was like the first time I've ever experienced that. I didn't even know what real anxiety was. And then there I am waking up in the bus, you know, every hour or so, and I'm locked up. And it's just a weird time for me. And just, you still have hardships, but you figure out how to go through them, and you have new ways.
Do you have an opportunity now to kind of feel happiness? Like, do you take a moment to,
I'm more filled with, like, my heart is full. Like, I've finally been able to take a breath and just be like, things are good. There's no need to freak out to try and, you know, take all these fires that are burning and put them out. And it's like, no, life is good.
Life is good.
Yeah. All right. Go for another one.
All right. Let's go for this middle one. Oh, yeah. This one's a good one.
What is it? Oh.
Yeah.
So
what's happening here?
If I'm not wrong, I feel like this is in the recording days of the EP Hudson sessions. I'm trying to remember exactly. But yeah, there was a couch downstairs, and that was like the comfiest place to sleep inside of that little guest house where we were recording. And I am done for. We probably stayed up until, this might have been the night where I recorded Losing Sleep. We stayed up I mean, all day beforehand recording and really the story behind losing sleep. My manager at the time didn't want me to record it. And basically I got my guitar player really, really drunk. And I was like, hey, we should just hit record real quick. And I was like, play these chords.
Agree, right?
Yeah. And then me and him worked on it all night. And I had to get drunk with him in the process because that would have looked fishy if I just kept pouring them and I'm standing upright. So we recorded Losing Sleep, which is why it sounds so drunk. Anyway, and then we fell asleep by 7 a.m. And then the next day we recorded the last part of it. And then we sent it out in February.
That's crazy.
And so, that's kind of the story. But this is my now manager, one of them. He's just sitting there playing on his phone. I'm pretty sure Austin, my guitar player, one that was also...
Took the photo?
Yeah, took the photo. Good Lord.
Those are the memories, though, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's how you create music.
This is
back in the day, that's how we did it. Yeah,
building a legacy.
Yeah. Working hard or hardly working.
All right, it's time for another one.
I think we do, right? We have a little bit of time. Okay, go.
Oh shoot! This picture right here was taken in Wichita. I believe it was Wichita. I'm trying to remember the venue. I know we were opening up for Charlie Crockett. The Cotillion, I believe, is how you say the venue name. It's a really cool place. But I didn't have much time. This is actually the last time I got to see my grandpa.
That was the last time.
Yeah, that was the last time. The venue was really strict on backstage access, and since we're the opener, and people run their security different, they were pretty harsh on it, so I didn't get a whole lot of time, and I regret it, because I barely got to say a couple words to him. But that's my grandpa, and that's my grandma, and that was the last time I got to see him.
Do you remember what you said to him that night? Those few words?
I know I got a couple laughs in with him, and I really only got to tell him I love him, and that was about the last thing. I just hate it because I was too busy trying to be the other me at the time, so I didn't give enough time, and they had to get going that night, and wish I would have done things differently. That was the last time.
Have you seen your grandma recently?
I did.
Yeah.
We actually went up there 2 weeks ago, I think it would have been, and we went and shot a Little Town music video.
Nice.
Don't know when that's going to come out, but got to hang out with her. I got to do something really fun.
Yeah.
When we were shooting the music video, we went down to the fairgrounds there in Beaver, Oklahoma, and my grandpa used to take me to the dirt races all the time when they still had them. And so that was fun because I ended up getting to go around the track with my grandma. And that scared the shit out of her. She was holding on to the ocean.
Yeah, sounds like
she had the ocean handle over here in the center console. And
does she sing your songs? Like, she does give you any critiques on your songs and go, listen,
no,
I like
not
this
really.
one better than the other? No.
One of my favorite things to do is ask her. I was like, "Do you want to hear Diamonds and Diesel?" Which it's not called that, but that's what she always called it. And it's a song by the Turnpike Troubadours that I'd always sit around and play for her. It's called Diamonds and Gasoline. And if you haven't heard that song, definitely check that song out.
Did she ever go up on stage with you? Have you ever brought her up?
I've never brought her up. I've never done that, although she is pissed at me because she hasn't gotten to meet Vince Gill yet. So we're working on that.
Yeah, you got to make that connection happen.
You gotta make
those dreams come true.
Slowly hoping that comes to reality.
Right on, man.
It's a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Okay, one more.
right.
No, we don't have time. Are we done?
Here, y'all pick. Which one?
Okay.
Here, you know what? I actually want to. This is exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Well, shoot.
Yeah,
There's
perfect.
so many questions about this.
All right. So this is the cover art to Welcome to the Plains. Chloe Tyler has always done our artwork ever since Please Don't Go. And really, I just told her, listen to the music, go wherever you want to go. That's usually how it's always been done. Sometimes I add what colors I kind of think, but for the most part, she She just listens and then makes her art.
What's so cool about the way that her approach is, and your approach really together, cover art could be anything. It could be just like a picture of you out in some grass, right?
Yeah.
But every time that you've put out a project where she's been involved, it is always eye-catching immediately.
Well, I love the chaos that she brings to it.
There's a lot of chaos in that.
Yeah.
Because she's always done a great job of that, and we killed the skeleton off from all of our other artwork, which is kind of what Half-Life was, and then this creation came out, and I had no idea that she had contacted my parents, gotten a whole bunch of family photos and everything else. She did a lot of digging, but she went full into this thing, and just incredibly done, like she always has. But when I seen this for the first time, I freaked out. I was like, "You got to be kidding me! This is the coolest thing that I've ever seen." But
how did you know that this collection of songs was the next thing that you wanted to share with people?
So that was kind of an interesting thing, because at first it was just talked about as going in and kind of recording some stuff. Never talks about an album, and then it just quickly turned into we got to turn around, we got to get more scheduled things going, and I was so scared that my songs weren't good enough at the time. So the first time we recorded, I was not even being present. I was just sitting in the control room writing different lyrics, trying to find different things, because I didn't believe in myself. And really, I wrote pretty much all of these songs from December 16th until, pretty much when we went back on tour, which would have been January 21st. And that was when the majority of these songs were written, which really, this entire album is just me daydreaming about going home and what home was when I left it before it felt like I left it. And so, I was just going over a whole bunch of memories, and even when I talk about losing sleep, Habits, the midpoint in the album, that song is actually a part 2 to Losing Sleep, and it's just coming back on some old memories, telling new stories, and really just wishing I could go home, because I wrote a lot of happier songs in such a bad time in my life, which is weird. But I just, which I'm guessing I'm probably going to write some really sad shit this winter, because I'm really happy. But it was a weird time for me, because I was finally getting in some actual studios for the first time with some really killer musicians, and really just had fun creating from top to bottom all these different songs, and watching them come together, because there's so many different genres that are blended into this. And the fact that it stayed constant throughout, couldn't believe the way that it turned out. And I can't believe it's out.
Yeah,
I mean,
congratulations on your debut album. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It must be really special for you to say that I have my debut album now.
But now all my cards are out, so now I got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Question: when you especially when you write music and you're in that moment and it's your feelings and you're being vulnerable, when you're on stage and you have to repeat those words again and you're in a different place in your world, is that hard to do?
It is at times. There's some songs that I don't really sing anymore, like Devil, which is off my Half-Life project. I don't really sing that song anymore, just because it just brings back a lot of dark memories. And sometimes that's what happens to me on stage. I'm not saying that I'm completely out of what I'm doing when I'm playing, but a lot of times it will take me back to when I first wrote them, and it'll bring a lot of back memories, and they kind of play in my head while I'm singing them. And sometimes I don't like those feelings, so I don't feel like playing some of those songs. But a lot of times it's a relief. Like Oh Susanna, I'm calling myself out. I'm saying I'm a full-on drunken behavior. I'm just absolutely bashing myself when I really think about it, and it makes me feel good to just express that over and over again, and just be like, that's who I was. Hopefully I won't be that again.
Oh, Susanna, it's a fun song.
It is a fun song.
You love it.
And it's a reflection of Please Don't Go.
So we're going to do a rapid fire question with you.
All right.
Whatever comes to your mind. Okay. What will we find on your Explorer page?
You'll probably find a whole bunch of memes of the wizard ones, like the side quest ones.
What's on your Explorer page?
You know what? I get some of those too. Actually, a lot of... I got a lot of dancing. I got a lot of break dancing on mine. I like break dancing.
Oh, heck yeah.
And my buddies send me a lot of wrestling memes.
Yeah.
You know, like pro wrestling stuff. So there's a lot of that too.
Mine is full of dogs, just videos of dogs. Favorite person to follow on social?
Oh, that's tough because social media's gotten kind of wild to where
Yeah.
it just sends
But
me
there
a
must
whole
be
bunch
someone that you kind of just look forward to seeing.
Shoot, I like seeing a lot of 49 Winchester stuff. A lot of times when they do their actual videos, I like watching them play live. They're freaking awesome.
There you go. Who has slid into your DMs? Professionally or personally? I mean,
I can't think of anyone's.
have you slid into anyone else's DMs?
No. Trying to think back. I don't think I have. There's just been people that we just talk, but
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever tried to slide in.
I was curious about the idea of like, when you meet people, is it mostly through professional means, like we're going to be touring together, or has something really cool ever come out of just meeting someone on social?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just meet people on socials, like me and Evan Hunter. We put out a song together, but we met through socials. I just happened to be in LA when I was doing like all my label meetings, and then he came over. Then we wrote that song, and then we actually just became best friends from being on the road together.
Nice,
like
man.
just naturally. I don't like the whole, oh, we're going to put 2 and 2 together and y'all are going to go. I don't like that.
No, it's got to feel right.
It's got to feel natural.
Is there a favorite post of yours, either on Insta or TikTok?
Oh, that's tough. One of my favorite posts was just after I played the Opry for the first time. There's a picture of me and my grandma at the bar, and it was that was like the first time where two
That's
worlds
a song
collided.
right there.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I was like, "You're doing shots right now, grandma?"
Hey, grandma at the bar.
Yeah. My Nashville friend started taking her, and then I was like, "What happened to grandma? She's a party animal."
How much time do you spend scrolling?
Quite a bit. Sometimes, in the wintertime, it's easier to do so for me. I don't like the winter. So, sometimes when it's cold, it's just easier to sit in a warm spot and just sit there and scroll. But I don't know. I don't spend too much time on one app. It's like I just keep bouncing back and forth.
I love it. I just got to say, again, Carlos and I had a chance to talk, and we want to say thank you for sharing your story because it resonates with a lot of people. And, when you came out with Please Don't Go, there's a lot of stories of people telling you about their own suicidal experience, and the way you took that burden, but be able to let go of it at such a young age is very powerful. And I think, we're just seeing the beginning of you, and I can't wait to see where you go from this point on. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
It's super exciting.
Like the chaos. This
The
is
chaos,
chaos
yeah,
of it
that
all,
is
right?
And also just the way I see it, the reach of that storytelling. A lot of people will look at let's say country music isn't something they grew up with.
Yeah.
But when they connect with something, that becomes deep.
Oh, yeah.
That becomes real deep. And I think you're probably experiencing this a lot now with everywhere you've been touring, where, I don't know, maybe you've been surprised by a group of people or an audience in a city that you might not have expected to be in. That are singing along every single word.
Last night here in Toronto.
Yeah.
I freaked out a lot. I was like, I took an in-ear out, and I was like, oh, they're screaming these words.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
It's awesome.
You and Taylor Swift in Toronto.
Wait, was she here?
Who?
She's here, right?
She?
Yeah, she has a six.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, 1 week.
Goodness.
Anyways,
Yeah.
she's here somewhere. Go find her. There you go. Thank you so much. Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
taking the time, man.